For Filipino families, a home is not just a physical infrastructure, but a dream fulfilled. It's about giving Filipino families an opportunity to live with dignity, security, and stability. Rise today to call for your support of House Bill number 9048, strengthening the right of the government to expropriate lands for socialized housing. The Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development reports that the country currently faces a housing backlog of approximately 2.2 million units, with total housing need projected to reach 3.7 million by 2028. This reflects the continuing challenge faced by millions of informal settler families, which is estimated to be at 3.7 million, who remain without access to safe, secure, and affordable housing. In response, this administration has committed to significantly expand the country's housing program. For 2026 alone, the department aims to deliver 90,000 housing units nationwide. Notably, as end of 2025, the SHUD has already facilitated the delivery of more than 400,000 housing units through its various programs and modalities, a clear indication of the government's continued efforts to address the housing crisis. However, as the government accelerates the implementation of socialized housing projects for underprivileged Filipinos, one fundamental challenge becomes increasingly apparent. Housing programs cannot succeed without an accessible and suitable land for its housing project. Madam Speaker, our effort to increase the funds of our various housing projects will be inoperative if we do not have the actual lands where these housing projects can be built. As we expand our Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino program, or 4PH, we should also expand the government's right and authority in expropriating lands for socialized housing. For decades, our national government, through our key shelter agencies and local government units, has worked to deliver housing programs. However, they are met time and again by one of recurring obstacle: the inability to immediately identify and acquire suitable lands for socialized housing and development. While Republic Act number 7279, or the Urban Development and Housing Act of 1992, already grants the government the authority to acquire lands for housing purposes, experience has shown that certain provisions have unintentionally limited the responsiveness and flexibility needed to address the country's growing housing backlog. Through House Bill number 9048, we are addressing these limitations. This measure removes the rigid hierarchy in the acquisition of lands exclusively for socialized housing. Again, Madam Speaker, dear colleagues, the removal of hierarchy is reserved solely for the purpose of socialized housing, para lamang ho na pambansang pabahay ng pamahalaan. The measure does not eliminate safeguards in land acquisition, rather, it allows government agencies to respond more efficiently to actual conditions on the ground while remaining subject to the existing constitutional and statutory limitations. Instead of forcing local governments and key shelter agencies to strictly follow a sequence before acquiring land, this bill empowers them to determine the most suitable and practical sites based on actual conditions on the ground. Madam Speaker, this will cut the bureaucratic and legal red tape we currently face. This will help us fast-track current and future housing projects that the government seeks to undertake. Through this measure, we also seek to make it more grounded in realities faced by our local government units and key shelter agencies by providing safeguards while also allowing room for flexibility. We are expanding the modes of acquisition, particularly within the mandates of functions of the Socialized Housing Finance Corporation, by introducing advanced land acquisition in favor of beneficiaries involving government-owned and foreclosed properties intended for socialized housing. At the same time, the measure expressly recognizes while the government may avail the various modes of land and property acquisition, the exercise of such authority shall remain subject to the applicable provisions of the Rules of Court and Local Government Code. Also, responding to the experiences of our local government units and key shelter agencies, we are adding a proviso that should there be any legal impediments affecting the expropriation of the subject land, the corresponding cases or action must have been instituted prior to the filing by the government of a verified complaint for expropriations under Rule 67 of the Rules of Court. This seeks to discourage dilatory actions and provide greater certainty in the implementation of government housing projects. These amendments are intended to provide greater legal security and clear procedures that will prevent unnecessary court disputes, delays, and other legal obstacles that often hamper housing projects. By ensuring a more secure and orderly process for the land acquisition, The measure will help speed up the development of socialized housing, protect government resources, and ensure that qualified beneficiary receive decent and affordable housing at the earliest time possible. May I also emphasize, Madam Speaker, that this measure does not diminish property rights in any way. Rather, it harmonizes private rights with constitutional duty of the states to ensure underprivileged and homeless citizens have access to adequate housing and basic services. The Constitution itself recognizes the urban land reform and housing matters of social justice. This bill operationalizes the mandate by strengthening the capacity of government to act decisively, efficiently, and responsibly in addressing the housing crisis. At the end of the day, this measure is not merely about expropriation. For Filipino families, a home is not just a physical infrastructure, but a dream fulfilled. It's about giving Filipino families an opportunity to live with dignity, security, and stability. It is about enabling local governments to plan communities better. It's about ensuring that government has the right and power to transform idle and unutilized lands into homes, communities, and opportunities for our people. With this, Madam Speaker, dear colleagues, I call for your support for House Bill number 9048. Thank you very much.
House Bill 9048 is approved on second reading.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Madam Speaker.